Microphone right here. 1, 2. Oh, wow. It is. It's on mute.
No, just leave it.
All right. We're live?
Yeah, we're live.
All right, guys. Give everyone a second to hop into the live. I just got the alert on my Instagram. Let me turn off my notifications. We're live on Facebook, live on everything else, James?
Everything's live.
All right. We need to spray this chair. And welcome to another episode of the Mirabella Mindset.
Rocking back and forth.
Guys, today is going to be a heavy topic of everyone is arguing and saying that this is illegal and that you're breaking the law. And I think really what it comes down to is nobody knows what the law is, and no one really asks the most important question to their accountant or to their lawyer. Not if this is possible, but how do I make this possible? And we're talking about 1099 structure, independent stylist structure, W-2s. I had a conversation with somebody on my salon Instagram page yesterday, and she told me that what I was doing in my salons is illegal. I forget what her name is because I got blocked. But I honestly, I don't even know why she couldn't carry a conversation on for that long. Like Cam Does Hair or something, I think is her name. But I really enjoy these conversations. So I'm going to be bringing on an accountant so we can actually dig deeper on why it's a benefit for the stylist and why it's a benefit for the salon and when it's not going to be a benefit and when will it be a benefit. And we're going to talk about the legalities of it today. And I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an accountant. I'm just a salon who has independent stylists. I'm going to tell you what works for me. I feel that's the best way to run your salon. If you think about the patterns in the industry and what's going on in our industry, suites are popping up everywhere. And then how do you, as a commissioned salon, how do you compete with that? How do you keep yourself relevant? How do you give something to the industry that is both supportive of them and also helps them grow, but also doesn't lead them or make them want to go to a suite? So this is why I came up with this particular business structure for my salon. And it's broken down to two different ways: W-2 employees, independent contractors. Let's explain the difference first. So first, a W-2 employee is a W-2 employee has a formal employment relationship with a company. They are considered part of the organization's staff, and the company controls how and when and where the employee performs their work. Employees have a set schedule and follow company policies. Tax withholding and benefits. The company withholds income taxes, Social Security, Medicare taxes, and the employee's paycheck from the employee's paycheck. Additionally, the company may offer benefits like health insurance, retirement plans, and paid time off. Job security and protections. W-2 employees are typically covered by labor laws, which provide protections such as minimum wage, overtime pay, and protections against discrimination and wrongful termination. Now, that would be your assistants. That would be, your front desk person. It could be even a stylist. Like, you could be a stylist and be a W-2 employee. But guess what? You could be a stylist and be an independent contractor. Let's hear what that's about. Employment relationship. The independent contractor is not an employee of the company, but rather a self-employed individual who provides services under a contract. Contractors have more control over how they complete their work, often set their own schedule, and work on multiple projects for different clients. Tax responsibilities. Independent contractors are responsible for handling their own taxes, including self-employment taxes, which cover Social Security and Medicare. They do not have taxes withheld by the company and typically receive a 1099 form for tax purposes. They said typically now, instead of a W-2 form. Guys, 1099 W-2, they're forms. That's all they are. They're literally forms. That's the title of the IRS form. Lack of benefits and protections. Contractors do not receive employee benefits from the company, such as health insurance and retirement plans. They're also not covered by most labor laws that protect W-2 employees, meaning they generally do not receive overtime pay, minimum wage protections, or unemployment benefits. So there's a clear separation between an employee and an independent contractor. Now, why is this important? Because when you say 1099 your employees, you're actually using the wrong verbiage, and that is not how it works. You 1099 independent stylists. But if you don't control, which I don't control my stylists' schedules, they tell me when they want to work. Let me put this on Do Not Disturb. They tell me what color lines they want to use. They tell me how they want to do their marketing. They tell me how they want to get paid, right? Should I pay their LLC? Should I pay them personally? Typically, depending on what state you're in, you're going to come across something called the Department of Labor. And there are certain rules the Department of Labor has, along with classification of the IRS. So I want to make sure you guys fully understand what state you're in and what that state's laws states about what you can and can't do. So there's something in California, because I always talk to people in California and they tell me it's illegal. There's something called the ABC law. And that came from a court case. Let me get that court case for you. Let me bring it up here. It was like Diamondx versus its employees versus Superior Court. So here's how it went down. Diamondx was a courier service. They had their truck drivers, their couriers, they were employees. They realized that they were getting completely crippled as a business with all these crazy payroll taxes and different other taxes. So they switched everybody to a 1099. Now, they were not clear on certain things. They were still controlling their schedule. They were still doing a lot of things that didn't really make their drivers independent. So in the court case, they lost. Now, if you're clear and you're presenting to your stylist that they can be independent and you help them form a 1099 and they can work whenever they want to work, and your salon is just really facilitating the environment, which we'll get into in a second, for them to do hair in, and they really are independent, they use their own scissors, they can pick their own color, then you can 1099 independent stylist. 100% you can do that. And you could withhold a commission or a fee for having them conduct business in the environment that you provide for them. Now, we're going to get into that in a second. So the first thing for ABC is absence of control. If you look here, James, can you switch over to the board?
I can switch over to the board.
Switch over to the board. So
Are you going to go over there and explain?
I'm going to explain that.
Bring the mic with you.
I want to get
Bring.
this chair that isn't loud for me here, guys, because this chair is just way too loud for me. They're all loud. We need WD-40 here. All right, so I can't find an unloud chair.
My chair is not loud.
Your chair's loud too. All right, so
Maybe you're just a fat ass.
we're gonna go here. You got me on mic?
Yeah, I got you on mic.
A, absence of control. What does that mean? That means you don't control their schedule. They dictate their hours. They can control their booking of appointments. So if you have a scheduling system, like I've used Fresha. Fresha is amazing. If she wants to use like Vagaro, I don't give a shit. Use Vagaro. But I give them the ability to choose using Vagaro or using Fresha. I give them the choice. Absence of control. That's the letter A for Californians out there who are trying to tell me that you can't do 1099s, you can't have independent stylists. Let's remove the absence of control from the owner. If you want to maintain control, then don't have 1099 independent contractors. Now, business of the worker. All right, we're going to jump into that in a second. What is the business of the worker? Let's go through that right over here. So we're going to chat about that. The worker performs the work that is outside of
You're talking into two mics.
That's all right, James. The worker performs work that is outside the usual course of the hiring entity's business. This criterion is intended to distinguish between the workers who are integral parts of the business core operations and those who perform the distinct and separate form of the business's primary function. So you guys are going to tell me right now that business of the worker, well, it's a salon, Nick. Like, isn't the main purpose of that salon to do hair? It depends. So, James, I'm going to sit down. I like to walk around a little bit, but all right. So that depends on a couple different things. What does your LLC operating agreement say? So the operating agreement of the salon, right? Let's say it's simply there to facilitate an environment for independent hairstylists or lash techs or whoever to work, and you help them with scheduling, education, and other things to provide aid for them and support them as independent stylists. Now, you have to work on the vernacular you're using to make sure your operating LLC doesn't state you actually do hair. You're facilitating an environment, and you help maybe handle some transactions for them. There's a couple intricate things you have to work out with your lawyer to make sure you're compliant for your state. Now, if you have that, then you're clear. That's not the business of the worker, the A, B, C, the B part is covered. Here's a quick little high level thing that I like to do. The salon's an LLC, right? The main purpose of that salon is to facilitate an environment for people to do hair in. Well, That's great, Nick. But people are doing hair in there. Aren't you paying them? No. I have another LLC that the main purpose of that LLC is to be a staffing agency for independent cosmetologists to do lashes and brows and hair and everything else. Now, that other LLC has a process where they help staff salons with independent contractors. So I'm not ever paying my stylist, the staffing company is. So there's a couple different ways you got to really construct these LLCs to make sure you're compliant depending on what your state says, but that's another way of doing it. Now, you guys are probably thinking like, this is just so much harder than just having W-2 employees. It might be, but if your payroll is $1.2 million and everyone's on W-2, they're getting completely obliterated with their taxes, and so are you. So if you have stylists that are doing $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a week behind the chair, sometimes more, they don't get access to all the deductions. Like they can't do certain things with their taxable income because the government gets that first, and then they have to fight to get it back. But if they were a 1099 and they have the ability to write off certain dinners when they take clients out to dinner, they have the ability to, not all the dinner, now there's certain laws here with the IRS that you got to follow, but they have the ability to do this. Let's say you have kids. Let's say your stylist is an amazing stylist. They're doing like $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a week. They're crushing extensions. Guess what? They're at 1099. You're giving them 70% commission, and they have 2 kids in daycare. They can't write off daycare, but you know what they can do? There's called like a dependent allowance. James, let me know if I'm wrong with this. They can give up to like $15,000 per kid. And guess who pays for the daycare? The kid. Gets the deduction for the kid. The business owner, the wife with the LLC. So there's reasons for this. So all you guys are saying you're taking advantage of your team. No, I'm not. I'm giving them the power to be an independent contractor, to be a business here in America and get the deductions they're entitled to. So let's go to the C now. Customarily engaged in the independent trade. The worker is customarily engaged as an independent established trade, occupation, or business of the same nature as the work performed of the hiring entity. This means the worker is in the business for themselves, typically providing similar services other than the business. So that covers up the reason why you have the staffing agency. And if your salon is just there to facilitate the environment, you guys don't do hair, then you're covered. You also want to make sure that your stylist is free to do hair outside of your salon. So when I got into a conversation with a lawyer, he said, well, do you stop your stylist from working? No, I don't. Like if you want to work in my salon, you could work Monday, Wednesday, Friday in my salon, and you could work Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday right next door to my salon. I don't care. That's how little control I have over my team. I really don't care. You could work down the street. You could do weddings. If I find the clientele, I will take a commission for providing you the clientele. So the salon's job is to find clients. The staffing agency's job is to find independent stylists. And then the two of them marry together in a contract. And guess what? Everything is peachy clean. Now, obviously, seek legal counsel, talk to an accountant, but this is 100% doable in states like California, in states like Pennsylvania, in states like New Jersey. You just have to be very knowledgeable of the law, and you have to understand your team is relying on you to be their leader. So you have to make sure you're transparent. It has to be win-win. If you're doing this just so you could retain more money and you're not looking out for your team, then you're in the wrong. So you have to make sure that there's a particular reason for you doing this. What's the outcome that you want to have by switching your team to 1099? More money for you and more money for them, more freedom for them, the ability to pay them higher commission, the ability to have them now get access to deductions that companies get, but they can't usually have if you kept them on W-2. There's a lot of reasons why it's a win-win. So let's take a look at some of the questions in the chat. James, are there any questions in the chat right now?
The chat is going wild today.
All right, cool.
Let me scroll up over here. Hope they all stay in there. So, salon industry coach. In California, 1099 is not legal. I was doing it and was audited by the state and the labor board. Lots of gray areas. I lost and had to pay $38K in fines and fees. I'm excited
What's her name?
to hear this. Salon industry coach.
She's excited to hear this?
She's excited to hear about your take.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Did you have a contract with those independent stylists? One way to really circumvent that would be take your independent stylists and really have them form an entity. Like have them become an LLC. And then the transfer of monies from one LLC to the next. It gets really difficult when you're 1099ing an individual because they're considered an employee. You got to make sure you don't control their schedule. You got to make sure in your contract it states you are allowed to pick your schedule. Have them write down what their schedule is. That way you can run ads for them. You can help build them up. Like there's a lot of ways to make sure that you are compliant with what the law says. Don't just get a letter from the Department of Labor. Like really go to court and take a look at like why you lost so you can do that in the future. California is ridiculous with their laws, like literally, but the state's out of control. Like just look at San Francisco. Look how much what's going on in that state. You guys want to really understand what this whole W-2 thing's all about? Like get this fly out of here. Think about all the withholding of taxes, the unemployment benefits, disability benefits. Where does all that money go? Like let's get a little bit deeper in here. Like, let's talk about the FDA and the poor food choices here in America. Why do we have all these food dyes? Why do we always talk about foods that are legal here in America but are illegal in Europe? Part of the reason why is the food stamp program that we have. People with food stamps are only allowed to buy certain types of food. That's what they get access to. These foods are owned by companies. That companies lobby to the FDA and give them money. Now, the FDA has control over other things. So these states have all these government funding operations, which implicates some of the laws they want to keep in place. So everyone's paying into this system that's completely broken. So you have to understand what you're dealing with here. You're dealing with things on just a big scale to keep the money machine going, to keep extracting money from the citizens so that they have a place to go make more money with their dirty food that doesn't really add any value to them. Like think about
Send it all overseas.
it's out of control. But yet now we have Europe that all these foods are banned. Why are they not banned in America? That's the reason why. Listen, this is bigger than what everyone thinks. That's why they fight so hard on these laws to keep the people stuck on these government programs. But if you do it correctly, if you do it the right way, and this is not like a conspiracy theorist speech, this is all fact. Like you have to understand, the reason America is such an amazing country is the fact that we have freedom. And the fact that we have laws that are a constitutional republic, the fact that we have laws in place that protect the right to contract, you have to exercise those laws. So company A, which is the operating salon, which is there to fulfill an environment and help aid in transactions and education and other things, is simply there just for that. That's the operating agreement for that company, that LLC. And they can hire a staffing agency whose main purpose of that operating company is to find stylists and pair them up with salons. Now, it just so happens that company could pair them with your salon, and it could do other salons too, but most of the stylists that they pair with go to your salon. But you're open to actually getting stylists to work somewhere else. That's completely doable. It's LLC or company to company. Now, your staff, don't let your staff just be a regular person, like just 1099 or social security number. Have them become some kind of an LLC. Here's the structure that I like. Have them form a trust and a holding company in a state like Wyoming or Delaware, and then the operating company in the state of California or Pennsylvania or New Jersey, the state that you're actually operating in. There's a lot of benefits to that. Check out the Wealth Matrix by Ed Collins. He goes more into that, more into detail. But that's the structure you want. You want them to actually be independent and be a business. You want the contract between you two to specifically state their independence. So all this ABC stuff over here is completely under control, and anything in your contract states that they aren't an employee. And if you happen to go to court, you stand strong and you fight your case. That's it. And as long as you have an LLC and they have an LLC and you don't control their schedule and you make sure you cross all your T's and dot all your I's, you will win in court because the law is the law and is written in black and white. That's it. Like this is very gray for some people, but not if you do it the right way. This is exactly why our country is so amazing. It gives you the ability to do things like this. Any more questions, James?
We got a lot in the chat. If I'm a commission-based stylist, should I be paying my own taxes?
100%. But what's your commission level? Like, would you want to pay your own taxes if I was giving you 70% commission? Guys, this has to be win-win. So this is not meant just to fuck over your team. This is meant to support your team. So why would you want your team to not get the benefit of, if they're making good money, if they're past $100,000 a year? Let me just preface this real quick. If you're a busy stylist and you're getting W-2'd and you're getting like 40% commission, wouldn't you? And you're booking, let's say 5,000 to 6,000 a week, even 3,500. You're doing upwards of 120 a year, let's say, of bringing into the business. Wouldn't you rather get all that money and then be able to take your deductions like a real company? You are a company. Like, you have an Instagram page. You have your own scissors that you buy. Don't you want to write that off? Don't you want to write your outfits off? Don't you want to write your car off as a business expense? You could write all this stuff off. So if you're a commission stylist, like, you're paying your taxes anyway. Like, you're paying them through the W-2 tax form. Why not keep all your money, really construct your life like a business, and then you have write-offs? Like, we're all adults here now. Let's be responsible. Like, let's start investing to our future. Let's build a business for yourself that you can really grow. Like, but if you're a salon owner, you can't keep the 40% commission and make them pay their own taxes. That's insane. You have to make sure you're at least 50-50, and then you scale up. Doing it this way is a win-win for everybody. And the fact that people are like, I got to pay my own taxes. You're doing it anyway. You're paying them anyway. But guess what? You can't deduct certain things because you are just a W-2 employee, and that's the form that you're filling out. Any more questions?
In a 1099 salon where you supply their color and supplies, what do your stylists have as write-offs?
They have that dinner that they took their friend out with. They talked about their hair. That was an employee dinner. They have their car. They have a room in their house for their office. They have both their kids, that they have 2 kids. That's $15,000 dependent pay. That they can write that off. They can write off their clothing. They can write off their marketing. So there's a way for us to market the salon collectively, and someone wants to boost their Instagram post, that's a write-off for them. So there's a lot of things they can write off. You got to take a look at the state that you're in, and you got to take a look at what your expenses are. Now, if you are an influencer on Instagram and all your marketing comes for that, if you're buying hair products, you can write that off. So I do parts and labor in my salon. So let me just state that. So it's not like I don't charge any percentage in the back end. It's parts and labor. Look it up. It's from Salon Scale. The client pays for the parts, and you give commission on the labor. But there's a ton of deductions that they can take. And depending on what state you're in, the stylist is independent, can actually 1099 the salon for withholding that commission. So that's another big deduction they can get, but we won't jump into that right now.
The Boston Blonde actually just asked about the client buying color from the salon. Salon industry coach, she said that's what she learned. They can't handle the money, control their schedule, or supply any products.
Yes, I love that. So here's what I do. I do non-negotiables, right? I'm also, let me preface, I'm a private membership association. I'm protected by the First Amendment and the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, along with other things. I'm not a licensed salon. I'm private. I don't function in the public domain. I don't help anyone in the public. We do other activities in my salon, like self-development, prayer, meditation. We might do hair in there. So we are completely out of the public-facing business entity. We're strictly private. This is for my clients who are actually still in the public sector. So let me start with that. You got to make sure your team, right? You have a contract with your team. They're obligated to, and that's an independent contractor. They have to fulfill these certain things. Like, they have to make sure they're clean and orderly. You can still control certain aspects of how they show up in the environment of the salon. So you have to make sure that you really lead your team. Here's the issue that I find. Like, let them know, hey, I need you to be in the salon from this time to this time. You pick your hours. What hours do you want to be in? Okay, and hold them to it. Have some non-negotiables that they got to book X amount per week in order to have a sliding scale of commission. As long as there's a contract and an agreement between them and you and the entity, you're within the law, I should say. But you have to build your team. I think too many people don't really lead their team. They try and motivate their team, when in reality, you have to inspire your team. And the analogy I gave last week was, if you think about this as an owner, right? You're an owner and you're trying to, let's say you think of yourself as a tugboat, and you're going out in the ocean and you're saving every boat, and you're trying to pull them to shore and pull them in and save every person. It's exhausting. Like, you're never going to save everybody. You're never going to truly lead them the way you want to. You have to be the lighthouse. You have to be the beacon of hope, the light, and you can guide the whole entire team without exhausting yourself and staying in one position. And you shine that light for each boat that needs it, and you stay stationary, guiding them all to shore and to their destination. That's what you need to be. That's why I dig so deep in this conversation to make sure that I'm actually the lighthouse, that I have the right information. I sat on the phone with my accountant and with my lawyer for hours going over this. Like, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? And then for each state. So I want to make sure you guys are so protected. If you want help like that, DM me the word grow. Like, let's get into the program. Let me take a look at what's going on in your salon, and I'll give you the best advice that I think is better for your salon. And it might be keeping everyone W-2. Like, this isn't for everybody. Like, this is just an amazing way to have suites in your area and give something to the stylists that want the independence of a suite, but still want the team of a salon. And if you want to give like 401ks and give benefits and have like a bunch of front desk and managers, you can't go above 46% in your salon because you're really only working off an 8% profit margin. And then every stylist in your salon is like, they're taking so much commission from me, I'm going to go to a suite. And then they go to a suite and they fucking realize that this is really hard and they fail. And now they're stuck into a lease agreement paying $450 a week for a lease. Why even have them put in that position? Just here's the one thing that everybody wants, whether you're in a coaching program, whether you're in a salon, or whether you're evolving as an athlete or a hairstylist and you're learning a technique. What's next? Like, as an owner, do you have what's next for your team? Like, you got the stylist, she came to you out of hair school. You taught her hair cutting. You taught her hair coloring. You taught her consultations, the art of relationships. She's a star stylist now. Now it's like 3, 4, 5 years down the road. She's booking at 3, 4, 5K, right? She's crushing it. Her friends are going to a suite. She's like, you mean I can keep $5,000 a week? That's what I'm booking? No, Nancy, you're not keeping $5,000 a week. You got to pay for your suite. You got to pay for the color. You got to get booking software. You got to pay your taxes. You got to form an LLC. You got to do all that stuff anyway. So why not do it like a team? Why not give them the what's next? Hey, Nance, so she's a stylist for you. Hey, you're hitting a level right now in your career. And it's so important for you as the owner to understand what each team member's vision is and what their goals are. And if you don't have those conversations, have those conversations. Because if it's important to her to make more money and be independent and maybe open a salon one day, she's going to do it anyway. So why don't you set her up right? Why don't you have that be the what's next for you? So for the next 3 years, she's covering her own taxes. She's being independent. So when she goes off on her own to open a salon or wherever she wants to go, she's already armed with the education and the knowledge on how to do it. Here's how I operate. I teach my team so well, right, that they can go anywhere. They have the knowledge of being independent. They have the knowledge of being a great stylist, a great colorist, a great whatever. I treat them so good that they want to stay. So I'm never scared of them leaving with this knowledge. If they leave with the knowledge, fucking awesome. They're better off having worked for me, that they now have the knowledge of how to run a company so their salon's successful. And guess what? We keep our relationship. And guess what we do next? We start buying products together. We start sharing stylists. I start sending people to her. She starts sending people to me. We collaborate in education together. Now I have like 15 salons in my network and we all buy products together. We're getting 20, 30, 40% off our color costs now, our product costs. We increase our margins. Is that such a bad idea? You guys see, this is a bigger picture than just being your little salon with 12 people in the middle of fucking nowhere. Think bigger than that. If you're just thinking about like getting more money from your stylist with switching to 1099, that's not the reason why. The reason why is to give them the what's next. Every stylist has a dream and have a vision. If they don't have that dream and vision, you need to make sure you understand that with them through your one-on-ones. And then you create the environment that's suitable for them. If it's a what's next situation where I want to own my own place or see what that's like, well, here's a way to do it while you're safe and supported with my accountants and my team. And you always got me to bounce ideas off of. And then you grow your circle of influence. So now you've, all these people who ran through your salon, and now there's salons you're connected with, 30, 40 salons, because you're this machine of building independent stylists to go off on their own and flourish. And then guess what? You become a coach. And now you have a whole knowledge-based business. Kind of like where we're at right here. So I want you guys to truly understand why this is important. It's the what's next, right? It's to benefit your stylist and benefit you. So it's win-win. And if that means that they get entitled to more benefits and there's a little less money going into the pot of Social Security and food stamps and shit like that, well, then so be it. They have the opportunity to hold on to that money now. So I want you guys to really think about what's the reason for switching in the first place. Is it because there's a new suite complex opening on every friggin' street corner around your salon, and you're trying to figure out a way to be different, to give your team something else, then this might work for you. If you're just looking to kind of take more money and rob your stylists so you don't have to pay their taxes for them, then this may not be for you. I want you guys to really understand that there's a purpose to this. And if it's to add value to your team, to really give them an experience and a salon that has their best interests at heart, then you have to weigh the numbers out. You have to figure out what's more beneficial for them. Where do they get access to more deductions? And then you go that route. But until they're ready for that, keep them W-2. And then when they're ready for the what's next, put them on 1099. You're much better off doing that than having them go to a suite and fail. So, James, any more questions in there?
Lots of questions.
All right.
Boston Blonde, I know California has made it very difficult to run a salon. It is the strictest rules in the country.
Yeah.
And asks, can you pay straight commission?
You could pay straight commission, but you have to make sure that ABC I put back there, right? You have to make sure that is all being controlled. Like that's covered in your contract. So let's just take a look here. How can I make this work in Cali? All right. Guys, ChatGPT, first off, is going to be your lifesaver for these contracts that you form with your independent stylist. So, to operate a salon with independent stylists in California while complying with the ABC test, you need to carefully structure your business practice to align with the state's strict classification rules. Here's a tailored outline to help make this work in California. Create 2 LLCs. The Salon LLC, this focuses on providing a space and facilitates for independent stylists. It does not directly employ or contract with stylists. The Staffing Agent LLC. The Staffing Agency LLC, which separates this separate entity, operates as a staffing and referral agency. It connects independent stylists with various salons, including your own, and handles administrative functions like contracts and payments. Okay. Define the role and purpose of each entity. So the salon's primary purpose is to lease space and provide an environment. Operation tools, optional tools and support. Provide optional tools like booking software and support services, like referrals to accountants and stylists, but these should strictly be optional, not mandated. So it's the option. You have freedom. That's what independent means. You want to give freedom. So number 3, develop comprehensive contracts and agreements. So draft contracts that clearly establish the stylist as independent contractors. Make sure you have these contracts outlined, clear. I created PMAs in California for my clients. They have no issues right now. Staffing agency and salons. Create agreements that specify the relationship between the staffing agency and the salon. This should clearly state that the stylists are independent contractors and not employees of either the staffing agency or the salon. Implement practices that comply with the ABC test. Absence of control, right? No mandatory tools or systems. And then prong B, outside of usual course of business. To meet this prong, clearly delineate the salon's role as a service provider. Right? This may clearly state the salon is just there to provide a space. That's it. Have that in an operating agreement. Broader placement of scope. Ensure the staffing agency places stylists in multiple salons, not just your own. So if you were to able maybe start a knowledge company, I think a stylist coach, right? That's who said this question, James? Stylist coach in California?
Boston Blonde.
All right. So if you are a staffing agency, maybe you provide stylists that come through your program to other salons. And if you do that and you could show that, like, hey, we don't just staff this salon, we also staff this salon and that salon and that salon. That's why it's important to have a big circle of influence, guys. Prong C, custom engage with independent trade. So support independent businesses, encourage stylists to establish their own LLCs or business entities and market themselves independently. So what I would do is I would have each stylist who's independent in my salon, have them form their own Google business page. So they truly are independent. They have their own traffic coming in. They're building their own brand and their own business. That's another thing you have on your side that states that they're independent. Transparent financial administration process. So you want to make sure you're completely transparent. What's going on with the holdings, who's collecting what money, what entity is doing what, and where that money is going. And then maintain transparency and documentation. Clearly define the roles and define who's doing what with each space. And then for the accurate tax reporting, issue 1099 forms. If you want to flip this upside down, guys, if the independent stylist, if they have their own booking software, they could 1099 the salon instead of you 1099 them. So there's no misclassification at all. They're 1099 the salon for using the space, so they're actually paying the salon the 20%, 30%, 40%, or 50%. So the salon takes that on as income, not the other way around. That's another way you can actually construct this whole thing if you wanted to. So that was like a quick little breakdown of what you do in California. If you want to see that, I'll copy and paste that to you in a chat. I have no problem doing that. DM me the word 1099 and we'll break down how this works, how you can change your salon over. But before I ever would coach anyone on this whole entire thing, I would want to make sure you're clear on what your purpose for doing this is and how it's going to benefit you and the team. This is not meant to benefit one party. This is meant to benefit both the stylist and the salon. And if it doesn't benefit both of them, then you have to figure out what would it take for it to benefit both of them. Maybe it's not this year, maybe it's next year. So the stylist has to have a certain amount of income to make it make sense for them. Right? If they're making like 40 grand a year, they don't really get all the deductions they should, or they could take access to if they're making more money, because there's obviously there's a little bit of work entailed in this. But if you want to maintain more of your money, you want to maintain the ability to write off certain things, you want to be able to maybe write off, your kids and then have that little bucket of money to pay for their daycare, you could do that too. If you want to write off your expenses because you work on the side doing weddings, you have a little wedding business, you can start writing that off, running that through your LLC. So there's a lot of pros and cons to being a business entity here in the United States of America. But that's just my take on the whole 1099s. James, I'm going to do one more question.
Oh, we got. Whew.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
How many people in the chat right now?
16.
Nice.
But there's the chat's loaded with questions. Like
right.
we.
Can you copy and paste them so I can get them later? Guys, I'm gonna do this conversation again for all of you guys. I'm gonna do my Ask Me Anything today. I'm gonna do it right now live with you guys.
Your Q&A.
Yeah, my Q&A.
Your Q&A.
All right, cool. All right, guys, we're live on the podcast right now. Everyone say hi. You're on the podcast. Monday Q&A. We're talking the ins and outs of 1099 versus W-2, why it's important, why it's not important, things you should know. If you have any questions you couldn't get answered in the chat in the podcast, drop it right up here. Monday Q&A. Content, guys. We'll talk about how to make content too on one of the other podcasts. But James, give me a question.
How did you become a PMA private entity?
All right, so
What the hairdresser told me.
What was the question?
How did you become a
Heard
PMA,
that.
a private entity?
So a PMA, so if you think of like NAACP, NAMBLA,
Yeah,
Boy
NAMBLA's
Scouts,
a big one.
there's also private associations. Like the right to associate is protected by the Constitution.
It's so protected. NAMBLA
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah, so there's
American Boy Lover Association.
Yeah, there's a lot of different associations out there that government, like that people who are that have high government jobs are part of these PMAs. They're not going anywhere. They're enshrined in the Constitution. So how I came about a PMA during the tyrannical shutdown back in 2020 when they kept liquor stores open and salons had to shut down, and they had Costco open, Home Depot open, big corporations were open, but yet the mom and pop store couldn't be open, but yet you could buy liquor, right? But that was completely fine. That was healthy for you. Yeah, when they shut salons down during that time is when I wanted to go in a little heavier into the Constitution. And there was a gym in New Jersey, not the one that got shut down, the one that actually stayed open. They shut their business down for over 24 hours. They dissolved their LLC. They reopened again as a private membership association, and they were open. They were packed too. And I learned about what a PMA was. And so you are protected under the First Amendment of the Constitution, and you are protected under the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. And I started realizing that you are protected. So if you want to I'll give you two little lowdowns right now. The First Amendment enshrines the freedom of association, allowing individuals to form private associations and engage in expressive activities without government interference. This protection is critical for the warehouse PMA, where members voluntarily participate in activities central to the association's purpose. 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment guarantees due process and equal protection under the law, safeguarding the rights of private associations from unjust government action, ensuring the state intervention respects these fundamental rights. So right now I'm in conversation with the state board, Attorney General of New Jersey, because they think that I'm operating a salon that's open to the public, and I'm not. I'm strictly operating in the private. You have to become a member. There are things that we do in my PMA that aren't applicable to the private. They're only applicable to the public, only apply to us in the private. So that's how I became a PMA. I really learned the law. I learned about the Constitution. I learned about my state constitution. I learned that we've been lied to a lot by our senators and congressmen. And to be honest with you, this is America. It's a free country, remember? So use the Constitution to your advantage. That's why it was actually made.
To protect individual rights and limit government power.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of court cases, too, that protect like all the constitutional rights that I just talked about. I mean, if you want to talk about Roberts versus United States, JC's 1984. The court recognized that private organizations have the right to expressive association, allowing them to limit their membership based on criteria relevant to the organization's purpose. So you can tell people they can and can't join. Right to contract. Lochner in New York. The Supreme Court emphasized the importance of freedom of contract, which is what we were just talking about, independent contractors. A right that, while subject to reasonable regulation, allows private individuals and associations to enter into agreements without undue government interference. The New Jersey State Constitution, that's where I'm located, particularly Article 1, Paragraph 1, also safeguards this right, ensuring that contracts entered into voluntarily by members and the whereas PMA are enforceable. So, guys, learn the law. Like, learn what your rights are. When you get the letter from whatever 3-letter agency, take a look at it. Use the books that you have access to. Use ChatGPT. Look up the law. See what the words say about the law that they're saying you're not following, and then make sure you follow it. And then you have no problems. All right, James. One more.
Another one?
While he's learning how to read, guys, if you want to learn more information on how to grow and scale your salon business, DM me the word grow. It's a little drop right there. I do this because I want to help everyone out, because I knew what it was like to have a business and have it get shut down. And I also know that, hey, there's better ways to support your team than just W-2ing them. There's a way to really make them grow and be independent and really step into their own. It would be amazing if you had a whole team of independent contractors that worked in your salon. They're all doing $5K plus a week. Who cares? You're only pulling 30% out of that.
Autumn
awesome.
Shai says, I live in California and own an employee salon. We switched to hourly because in California, to be truly commissioned, you have to pay double the minimum wage while they're doing it.
Yes. So, Autumn, did you just jump on the call? Autumn? I think
that's an old question.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, no. If they're employees, you have to do that. If they're commissioned, like I said, you want to structure this in California where you have one LLC that facilitates the environment for independent contractors to work in, and then you have your staffing agency. So you could 100% 1099 them if you form both LLCs with the proper operating agreement and you state what that operating agreement does, what that LLC is here for, like what's the purpose of that LLC, and then you're 100% fine just 1099ing them. Accountants don't really know the law. Lawyers don't know the law. The IRS doesn't know the law. A lot of people don't know the law. It changes all the time. Like, the law is written down, read it, look at it. And how, like when you ask somebody for legal advice, ask them not if this is possible, how do I make this possible? That's the beauty of this country. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any more questions, drop it into the story that I posted today with a Q&A. We'll talk about this all week long if you guys want to. I don't really mind. I love it. I love talking about our freedoms. This doesn't really pertain to like Canada or Australia, Scotland, you guys out over there. It pertains to the UK because we won the war. And this is the whole reason why we have our constitution. So thanks, guys. I appreciate that. But yeah, this is a really hot topic in our industry because people want to throw the word around illegal like they actually went to fucking law school. And half the lawyers in this world don't even know what the law says. So I want you guys to really do your homework. This is your livelihood. This is your business. Like, don't leave it up to somebody else to control your business. Learn what you can and can't do. Learn how you have to word things like your operating agreement. Learn what the ABC is. Learn what court case that was. Learn what happened with that court case. And then how do you shield yourself from the overreach of government? It's very simple. So drop questions if you want. DM me. I'll answer questions through the DMs that I can. Use ChatGPT as your best friend. We'll do this all week long, guys. We have our 1 o'clock coaching call. I will see everyone on that call. And have a good day.